Hey everybody, welcome to this day of the summit. I am so excited because today I am joined by Renee. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
Where are you calling us all the way from? I'm all like in my summer gear and you're all bundled up, so it's probably somewhere cold.
Yes, we are in Detroit, Michigan. So
Yes.
it is cold here.
Really
Those
cold.
memes where it's like the guys like they were made here.
The little one who's like frozen. Yeah, that's definitely there. Well, I'm excited because Renee is the best because she's really good at talking about something that a lot of us, whenever you hear the word, it's like your stomach kind of like goes up in here like sales. Oh, I don't want to do that. But I've put her in this summit and I've put her in here because we are at a point where a lot of you are probably already getting an idea of like, cool, I know some things I can do online, or hey, I'm going to pursue this career path, or if you're not, then stick with us and you'll get there. But there's a lot of differences between being like, cool, I know I want to do this job, I know I want to work with these people, and I see some job postings, or I'm, trying to network on Facebook, and then that's it. And you're going to get stuck there. And so Renee is going to help you and help us with being able to get it all the way to actually having someone pay you and what in this and that key distinction, that key part, because we can give you the jobs, we can give you the resources, but if you don't know how to take them and turn them into, closing the deal, so to say, then it's useless. So Renee, let's get into it. Where do you see that people get stuck? I kind of just gave like a overall summary, but there's some really key reasons that people get stuck there.
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons why people like learning sales from me is I give really silly analogies, because analogies kind of loosen us up, but the analogies are true. Yeah. So this is for those ladies who are listening who have ever dated someone for a really long time. And he never asked them the question, never popped the question, right? I've got friends like that. And I would have been happy. I don't think I would have ever told Mark, hey, you should marry me. I don't know, maybe I would have. But I was happy I was happy the way things were. I didn't want to break the status quo. Mm-hmm. So the deal is that it doesn't mean you don't love each other. So in the case of buyer and potential, seller, doesn't mean it's not a good fit. It doesn't mean it's not a good match. It doesn't mean everything isn't perfect. But somebody has to ask. Somebody does. And so if you've ever been in a situation where the buyer's like, so how do I work with you? That means that you're not asking. And if you're the one off, how do we ask? Kindly and respectfully, but clearly. So it's very, very simple. It's simply, do you want to hear how I work with my clients? You think it'd be crazier than that. A phrase, I call these pocket phrases. So when you're meeting someone, whether it's in a social environment like online or even at a networking event, and I call Facebook groups networking events online. You simply start a conversation and you see where it goes. Just like dating, you start a conversation, you see where it goes. Not everybody's going to be the right match, but the ones that are, you're like, hey, you don't want to keep talking in public. You're like, hey, come over to the side over here. Let's grab a cocktail or let's grab a water or whatever. And you want to have that one-on-one, more personal conversation. You don't want to have to ask all those questions out loud. And so just like dating, you don't want to say, now, I want to have 3 kids. I want to name them, Mary, Michael, and Mark.
Right. Unless you really want to repel them.
Right. Too fast, too soon. You may really want to have 3 kids, Mary, Mark, and Matthew, but you don't really want to talk about that yet. So you have to ease your way into the conversation. Things like, tell me about your business. Get them talking about things that they like talking about. And then what you'll learn is where else to ask the next question. So I see you said you're working on a podcast. Well, that's interesting. Who's doing the editing? Oh, okay. So I see that you're getting onto lots of podcasts. Do you have someone working behind the scenes to get you those listings? Oh, that's interesting. So you're looking for ways that you might be able to fit in your work. Have you ever thought about hiring someone like that?
It's important too that people understand, like what you just said about the questions, is that a lot of people don't know that you exist. A lot of people are just so deep in the trenches of their online business or their business. Like most people don't, when I tell, so a great example is big bloggers and major influencers that I've become very good friends with. And when I tell them what a virtual assistant is and what they can do for them, their jaw drops. They're like, what? I can hire someone? And so the girls that are coming out of my program that are cold pitching to the bloggers, they're getting hired right away because the blogger's like, well, yeah, of course I want to hire you. But like, that's a perfect example. They might not even know that there's someone who could edit the podcast. So whatever that thing is, it's just getting the conversation going and asking those questions. And it's not in this like scary, let me attack you and tell me about the 3 kids that you want to have way.
Right. Not like, so I have an offer that's 3 months and we pay $1,200 a month, and how it works in retainer is like this. And then we do this, and then we do that, and then we build a house. Right. And then we paint it pink, and then the front door is yellow. Like, I know that you might've been dreaming about this for a while. But, and again, I'm sure you teach them like, create packages and offers and put it all together. But at the end of the day, when you're first getting to know someone, that's irrelevant. Ask them the questions, find your way in, and then say, that's really interesting. I actually do something like that. It sounds like this other person I work with, or it sounds like this offer that I created. Do you want to hear how I work with my clients? Well, yes, I do. I really like you. So it's kind of like, hey, we had this first date. Would you like to go on another date next Saturday? Or would you like to meet up for coffee on the weekend? Sure. Why not? You've gotten to that point where it makes sense. So I think most people just don't ask. That's the key that, to the answer of your question, is they just don't ask.
Oh, so good. And there's a lot of, I think, fear around what to ask, how to ask, what to do if they say yes. Oh God. Okay. Now what do we do? So there's a lot around, and I think for women in particular too, which I know we're going to get into, we have a lot of issues with this stuff. And it's what prevents us from really being able to get the amounts of money that our level of expertise we should be paid for. So I know you know all that, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to get into. But tell me a little bit about, and everybody a little bit about your sales experience, because it's like this crazy, well-rounded journey, and everyone is going to their jaws are going to drop now that they get to learn from you, because I'm serious. You're like, every time I get to hear from you, I'm like, wow, she's talking, and I'm going to pay attention 100%.
You are so funny. My sales journey, I'm 46. And so I've been selling since, officially, formally as a paid salesperson since I was 21, 5 days out of college. I deferred my entrance into law school so that I could do this. And I realized I was making more money in sales than I was ever going to make as a lawyer. So I never went back.
So let's just like mic drop there.
And I've loved it.
Because a lot of people are like, lawyers and doctors are hitting top. And someone, I published what my hourly rate was just in a Facebook thread once, and a doctor was like, you make more than I do. So if you guys are all listening, know that this working online thing and doing other types of business is very legit. Anyway, continue.
On that note too, my child is about the age that some of his friends are starting to talk about getting orthodontics, right? I'm like, oh, an orthodontist, that's a fantastic kind of, job. It's like a dentist that has a specialty. Well, he's like, what is it? I'm like, a dentist has a specialty. He's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, but it's not scalable. So you're like,
yep. You have to be in the office. You have to sit down. You have to do this thing. Yes. Yeah, you and I.
It's a great job. It's a great job.
Yeah, you've created a great job for yourself that you have to go to every single day if you want to make money.
Then I started going off. This is where Ben's like, oh my gosh, really, Mom? I'm like, unless you act like Henry Ford. Henry Ford had not invented the car. He invented the system to make a lot of cars for a little bit of money. He didn't invent the car. He was just an innovator. He figured out that people wanted cars, but he figured out that they also couldn't afford them the way they were made currently. So that's how you can do it. You can go in, Ben, make these orthodontic pieces and figure out how to system. He's like,
our poor kids. I know.
So, our poor children. I know. And we both have. So for those of you who don't know, when we met in person for the first time, we were both talking about our sons and like the same age, and we talked about Ben, and we're like, wait, you have a Ben too? Like we thought the other were talking about our own Ben.
Yeah. And Renee and I are both extras. So I just understand what our children have to go through all the time. Like, well, what he should do is this whole business plan. I just want to go play on my iPad, Mom.
this whole business plan. Yeah, he wanted to sell lemonade once, and I was like, okay, so
oh God, Lord help him.
Lord help him. Yeah. So to answer your question, my sales experience, I started out, I mean, I've sold everything from SkyTel Sky Pages. This was in 1994, the year I was 21. That was the highest level of technology. So it was a telecommunications company. And then it was like, synchronicity, serendipity, all the things all at once too. I got into the AT&T, the telecom boom. So when AT&T was buying out all the baby bells in America, North and Canada, I ended up buying a territory and running a huge sales team, 5 states, 300 people. And we just rode the telecom wave to the point where I was, my company was over $1 million before I was 25 years old. I did not know what to do with that money. I had bad financial advisors. They're like, buy a really hot car. I'm like, okay. They weren't real financial advisors. Fun. They were like my friends. Yeah. They were my friends. They're like, you should totally get a BMW 7. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I'll just get a 5. Sure. Why not? Better. Anyway, long story short, it was all good. I did a lot of good things. I bought my mom a house. It was great. It was great to learn to make money and learn to teach people how to make money. And then I moved into the manufacturing side, beverages. I had a beverage company with some doctors. That was fantastic. We ended
Wasn't
up
it wine or something?
Cherry juice. It was a health drink.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
It
was red.
Off. I wish it was wine.
It was red. It was red, non-fermented. Yeah. It was great because Michigan's like known for cherries, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, I've sold everything from, $12 things to $12,000 things to $1.2 million things. And the sales process is the same. So when you ask, what are people missing going from I'm meeting people to I'm not closing, what's that gap? And I said, you got to ask. That really is it. Now the finesse and the energy that goes into asking will grow and develop over time. And that's where training and spending time training. So if you're in business for yourself and you're the only salesperson in that business and the sales is how the money comes into the business, then you need to be the best salesperson in your business. Right.
Yep.
So it pays to invest in that space, to learn to be a student of sales. And what is sales? It's not convincing. It's not persuading or manipulating. I really call it shepherding. We're shepherding the potential client and we're asking the questions. We're saying, well, so what you're telling me is it sounds like you're here and you want to go there. And if they're like, yeah, that's true. And they're like, okay, so I have some ideas on how to get there. Do you want to hear those ideas? So that's really all you're doing is you're offering some ideas. And then you're saying, okay, so to put those ideas into action, it would look like this. We would set up an onboarding call. It would look like 2 hours. And then we would systematically work together in this way. That would only be, $10,000. I mean, whatever the price is, I don't know. Depends. And people ask me about the price all the time. What about pricing, Renee? And my answer is price only has to be acceptable to you and the other person. When I work with people, they've oftentimes come to me because they've charged too little. I'm like, well, that's the best way to feel the burn to know you have to raise your prices is if you're doing all the work and you feel like you hate it, then you know you need to raise your prices. And that's easy to do because you're in charge.
And that's one of the things that I think people don't know about this industry is like the secret answer is, what do we charge? Whatever you want. Like, that's it. Like, it has to make sense for the audience. It has to make sense for the market, but whatever. And make sure that your skill set is matching it. Like, there's a few nuances to it, but everyone's like, what should I charge for this social media package? I don't know, whatever you want to. Like, it really, there's a couple different factors, but that's really the bottom line. And then if you have that sales process really nailed down, then it's going to be a yes every single time. I don't remember.
And the yes every single time is it's always yes, here's my credit card, let's secure your spot in my calendar, or yes, let's book another call. And what I think the internet space can mess with our minds is we think, we hear in the popular space by those popular voices, you can close a high ticket sale in one 15-minute call. Well, I mean, yes, if there is a bunch of other things that happen before that call happens, it's called pre-framing. But if that didn't happen and you're just getting to know someone, in the sales world, when we cold call and we actually end up signing a deal, whether it's $5 or $50 or $500,000, the typical time it takes is 9 sales calls.
Wow.
That's the average.
Wow.
That's
really good to know.
Professional. Right. So it makes you feel like, oh, there's a little less pressure. It doesn't, I mean, knock on wood, it has never taken me 9 sales calls to close somebody in the online space. But, thankful to video and a lot of other, if you have a social media presence,
it's almost like 9 touch points.
Automatically.
Like the 9 touch points, right? So like could be a blog they read, could be a webinar they watch, could be that they talk to you, to your chat bot. That's what happens to me. Could be then that they talk to you a little bit, and then maybe that we're at step 5, and then maybe whatever. So I think touch points is a good way to frame it for the online space. One thing I want to just touch on really quick before we get into I want to talk about some misconceptions and what we mentioned about women with sales and all of our issues, is that if you're watching and you're like, well, I don't have an online business, I'm not trying to sell this $12,000 or whatever. But if you are, all of this is the same stuff. Because if you're trying to apply for a job at a corporation, you're selling yourself. And there's a lot of processes, right? Like that you need to try to get the interview. First, you want them to open your cover letter. Then you want them to look at your resume. Then you want them to respond to the resume. This is all sales and psychology and tactics that we're going to be talking about that you can use for that. If you're a contractor, then you kind of technically are in business for yourself. And imagine if you sell a social media package, the same one that you've been selling for $500, and now you're able to sell it for the $12,000. This is what we're trying to talk to you guys about. And it really is relevant for everyone. And as soon as I started really realizing that, it made a huge, huge difference in how much I made and how much more I enjoyed the things that I did. Because like what you were saying, if I'm charging the right amount for what the services are that I'm providing, I'm happy. I'm doing my thing. I'm making social media packages or whatever the thing is. But if I'm not, then I'm pissed off that I have all this work to do and I don't feel like I can barely pay my bills and blah, blah, blah. So this is really relevant to all of you guys watching, whatever type of work online or work from anywhere work that you want to be doing. And then let's talk about people getting freaked out about the S word, sales. Oh my gosh. Why is this? Why is it so hard for us?
My weekly show, the S word.
I know.
The S word. It is true. Because we've been on the wrong side of it. I think there's so many of us that have received